Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome in to another edition of Tider Insider Television here on WVOA 23. I'm Gary Harris, joined as always across the studio by Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com as we continue to work at a safe social distance here during the coronavirus pandemic. All right, we're going to begin with basketball. Alabama is now 18-5 in men's hoops with 3 games left in the regular season, possibly a 4th against Texas A&M. It was a hard-fought battle this past Saturday as the Tide, the top team in the SEC, took on Vanderbilt, the last-place team in the SEC. Bama pulled it out, 82-78. Jaden Shackelford posted a season-high 27 points, while Javon Quinterly had 15 and 3 assists, and Alex Reese contributed 10 points. It was a senior day for the Crimson Tide in this game. Alabama now moves to 13-1 in the SEC. The Tide's ranked number 6 in the AP Top 25 poll. They're number 7 in the coaches poll. Post-game, the 7 seniors were recognized for their years of effort on the basketball squad, as well as being part of this year's standout season.
On behalf of all the seniors, the team, we just want to thank all our fans, our new coaching staff who came in and, helped us turn this program around. We just want to, thank you all, our families. We thank you all for the support, and let's make a run in the tournament.
All right, Ronnie, this turned out to be a much closer game than many expected. But Vanderbilt, first of all, let me tell you what, they got a couple NBA guys on that team, and their talent level is better than their record. And it was a big day with all the talk about the contract extension and the new pay raise for Nate Oats, the rankings in the top 10, senior day coming after the game. You certainly don't want to lose it. And Alabama almost did. But I said, Rodney, almost did. Maybe in the past this was a game that Alabama would have lost the last few years when they've had these February swoons. But in this game, even though they didn't play their best against a fired-up Vanderbilt team, they found a way to get the W. And at the end of the day, as you and I both know in this business, when it comes to sports, it's about wins and losses.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between this year and some of these past years that you're referring to, Gary, is they're finding ways to win these games. And, when you lose a couple of these games in a row, then all of a sudden it kind of momentum starts going the wrong direction. I think they've kind of stymied that. Obviously, they lost to Oklahoma, they lost to Missouri, but they bounced back from those games. They bounced back from those losses, and they've won some really tough games. And I think this really builds in terms of confidence and a little bit of positive momentum as you start to move forward. When you can win these close games, this is the difference between what maybe an average program and one that kind of takes that next step.
And I think, too, it's a good wake-up call. As Coach Saban says, Rodney, you'd rather learn lessons without having to lose. And I think Alabama got reminded that in this conference or in college basketball, period, you've always got to be ready to play. And, Vanderbilt gave them a game, and the Tide found a way to get it done. Now it's time for Coach Talk. Crimson Tide head coach Nate Oats says tomorrow night's game at Arkansas is going to be one of the toughest Alabama's had all year. In fact, this Razorbacks team is red hot, and it sounds like Coach expects the Razorbacks' Moses Moody to be a huge individual challenge. He's averaging over 16 points a game, and in the first meeting between these two teams last month, even though Alabama won by 31, Moses scored a game-high 28 points.
He killed us. I mean, he had 28 and 9. We really struggled. So we got to have some guys step up, meet the challenge. We've got some guys that want to play in the NBA, and I think they have a really good chance and should be playing in the NBA. Well, this kid's supposed to be a lottery pick, which, we certainly helped all those projections last time we played them. Then some of our guys that want to play need to step up and meet the challenge and do a better job guarding them than we did last time for sure.
Ronnie, I know that 31-point loss in Tuscaloosa stings Arkansas, and, man, they have turned it on. They're the hottest team in the league, make no mistake. They're now ranked in the top 20. They're in second place in the standings. They're very athletic, similar to Alabama in that regard. This game tomorrow night on the road in Fayetteville is indeed going to be a big challenge for Alabama.
Yeah, I think it's a great measuring stick, so to speak. Gary, you go in against a team that's playing really well, hot on the road. This is a great opportunity for Alabama. Again, I think with the season that they've had, we've talked about some of the close games. This is a really big challenge, as you mentioned, but I really think when you have these kind of opportunities, this is kind of where you get the sense of where you are right now, how your team's kind of starting to gel as you start to move forward towards the tournament. So I think it's a great, great opportunity.
Alabama could clinch a share of the SEC regular season championship with a win. They still have games against Mississippi State and Auburn remaining. And remember, there's that game last week at Texas A&M that was postponed. There's a possibility that that one could be made up as well. But Alabama's in great shape, but it's going to be a tough one tomorrow night up in Arkansas. Well, last Thursday, Alabama's Director of Athletics, Greg Byrne, announced an extension of Nate Oats' current contract. The new agreement extends the original deal by 3 seasons to 6 years through 2027, giving Oats control of the program, as I said, exactly until March 14th, 2027. And he's going to make $3.225 million. There is a huge buyout in place to protect both sides, right around $10 million, showing, I guess, the commitment that Alabama has to Oats and Oats has to Alabama. He's 32 and 32 wins so far in 2 seasons, and 2011 against SEC opponents. So he's getting it done, Rod. And only in his 2nd season. Are you surprised that he received this extension and pay raise already?
Well, I think when you look at how much progress they've made, Gary, and 13-1 in the SEC right now, been an incredible season already. Of course, they still have a lot left to accomplish. Again, he's a guy that had a name for himself at Buffalo. I think now, with what he's doing here, certainly Alabama, I thought it was time to step up. And sometimes you hesitate, Gary, and don't make that move when you should. I think this is a really very good move by Greg Byrne to go ahead and get this thing nailed down.
When you look at Nate Oats and the trajectory this Alabama program is on, I think it is safe to say that he has caught the interest of other programs around the country. And I think this does, as I said, send a message that he wants to be here and Alabama wants him here. And with that $10 million buyout on both ends, it would appear that he has no plans to go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, Gary. I think, with the commitment that Alabama's showing, they're showing it on their end. I think Nate Oats has said a couple of times, maybe more, he has no interest in terms of, or no plans in that regard in terms of leaving. But a lot of programs looking for young coaches who have turned programs around, can recruit like he can recruit. Certainly, he's a guy that's be a hot commodity.
Well, Alabama women's basketball is also having a solid season as they try to make the tournament for the first time since 1999. 2-0 last week with a win at Florida and a win at home against Mississippi State. The women are now 15-6 overall and 8-6 in the SEC as they have their final 2 games this week. At home on Thursday night against Texas A&M, ranked in the top 5, and on the road Sunday at Arkansas, ranked in the top 20. So it's a great opportunity for Alabama. If they could just win one of these even, I think they'd be in great shape to get into the NCAA tournament. Of course, postseason, they'll play in the SEC tournament in Greenville, South Carolina first. Well, still to come here on Tider Insider Television, a highly ranked recruit is committing on Friday in football, and Alabama is one of the finalists. And the Crimson Tide baseball team got it underway this past weekend in dominant fashion against McNeese State, getting the sweep. And they're playing this afternoon as well. And we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. You can email us at the address on your screen or tweet at us. Use that hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider Television will return right after this. And we're back here on TITV. I'm Gary Harris, joined by Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. Well, football recruiting for the class of 2022 is underway. And for Alabama, a potential 4th commit for the 2022 recruiting cycle could be coming this Friday. 4-star quarterback Ty Simpson from Westview School in Martin, Tennessee will announce his decision this Friday. Simpson is the 2nd-ranked dual-threat quarterback in the class of 2022, and he holds offers from a plethora of schools, but most believe that it's down to Alabama and Clemson. Tennessee trying to hang on there, but the coaching change hurt them. Rodney, this is a kid that I mean, he's got some nice abilities you see here on the video, and as a coach's son, his dad's the coach at UT Martin. What are the chances you think that he winds up rolling with the Tide?
Well, you know, I've got a really source that's been reliable in the past. Gary, pretty sure thinks he's coming to Alabama. I mean, he feels pretty confident about that, but at the same time, I know there's some really strong sources that think Clemson is in good position, and guess what? It sounds like Tennessee with Heupel. He's done a nice job. The kid grew up a Tennessee fan in that state, so I certainly wouldn't count them out. Like I said last week, he has been really difficult to read. Sometimes you can get a real sense what a kid might do. You know, Ty's been tough to figure out, but it really would not surprise me any of the three. You know, again, I'll go with my source right now, and he feels pretty good about Alabama.
Well, he's currently listed as a 4-star, which is plenty good, but there's some thought that he could become a 5-star. Rodney, when you watch his tape, and I know you've broken it down in video, what do you think, you know, is it about him that makes him potentially a special player at the QB position?
Well, I think, first of all, Gary's really smart. You know, I think he has a great understanding of the game. Like you mentioned, he's a coach's son. So he grasps things very quickly. He's a really good athlete. You can see how well he moves around, and I think as a quarterback to be able to do that, that's certainly a bonus. But you know, he's always looking to throw. He's not you know, he's not a guy that just takes off, but he certainly has that capability. But I really like him. I think he's smart. I think he can stand in there and make a lot of throws, and he can also extend plays with his legs and make throws. So really like Ty Simpson. I think he's got a lot of qualities, and I agree with you, Gary. I think he's got a good chance to be a 5-star by the time this process is over.
All right, we'll be watching and listening to his decision on Friday, that's for sure. Well, Alabama linebacker Ali Cahoe, number 10, announced on social media last week that he's entered the NCAA transfer portal. During his 3 seasons at UA, Cahoe appeared in 40 games. He recorded 33 total tackles, 14 solos, 3 block kicks, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 block kick for a touchdown. He was a dynamic player on special teams, Rodney, and you know, I was hoping that he'd find a niche here on defense, but that is a stacked position, linebacker for the Crimson Tide, and so clearly he is looking at other options right now.
Yeah, he is. You know, he's from out west, you know, out in Nevada area. So, you know, as a guy, it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I know he was really thankful to Coach Saban you know, for the opportunity that he got here, Gary. But Cahoe is a great athlete. There's no question about that. You remember he got here late his freshman year. He originally was going to the University of Washington, but there was a hitch there, and he got here late. But so we'll see if he goes back to the West Coast.
All right, we will indeed. Well, Alabama softball has played 8 games, and Crimson Tide's won them all. The East and Bama Bash added 4 more wins to the win column over the weekend, including 2 wins over a top 10 ranked LSU squad. The final game of the tournament against the Tigers ended in a 13-5 run rule victory for Alabama in the 5th inning. And those 13 runs are tied for the most that Alabama has ever scored against LSU. Senior Kaylee Tao took home MVP of the tournament, and she's also the SEC Player of the Week. She batted nearly 800 in that tournament. She is just pounding the softball, and Alabama looks really, really strong. Here is Patrick Murphy with his take.
I'm just really pleased with the weekend, and Kaylee Tao was just on fire the whole time. It really, really helps, and you guys obviously see that from the press box when people are going to walk Bailey, the people behind her do what they need to do. So it's very difficult to pick your poison, who you're going to pitch to.
Well, Rodney, Alabama absolutely dominated LSU. Now, listen, these didn't count in terms of the SEC. This was a tournament, but LSU is one of the better teams in the conference, and this has to bode well for this potential for this Alabama softball team, Rod.
Yeah, you know, Patrick Murphy told us right here a couple of years ago, Gary, that he felt like the next few seasons were really going to be good. This team you mentioned starting out 8-0. Going to be really interesting to watch as this season progresses, and you know, just how good can this team be? I know there's high expectations. You know, the fans around here, Gary, and looks like Patrick Murphy's got himself a team that he's really got an opportunity to develop.
The goal is Oklahoma City, and they look like they've got the roster to make it happen. Well, Alabama baseball got its season started this past weekend, and the Tide didn't walk away disappointed at all as they swept McNeese State in a 3-game set. The games were good games, but Alabama outscored McNeese 23-14 in the 3 games. They got great starting pitching from Prelip and John and Dylan Smith. Got some clutch hitting, some home runs, and Brad Bohannon was proud of how his team came through and got the sweep.
Just pretty awesome to have so many game-winning plays, and the competitive spirit of the team was awesome. There was no panic, and just a really, really great win for us.
And right now, Alabama leads Jacksonville State on the road over in Calhoun County 5-2 in the bottom of the 7th. So they're looking to go 4-0. We remember, Rodney, last year they were 16-1 when the season got canceled. I don't know that they'll make it to that mark this year, but clearly off to a good start. Yeah,
I mean, it's amazing. Like you said, last year, unfortunately, canceled after the great start. So I'm really excited to see how they progress this year, Gary, because, you know, Brad Bohannon's a tremendous recruiter, so excited to see if some of that talent he's brought in kind of comes to fruition.
Absolutely. Good-looking club. Well, Alabama Gymnastics is continuing another strong season. The scores they posted are proving it. And coming up next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number 205-348-9882. Please give us a call. We want to hear from Tider Insider Nation. Phone calls and emails coming up here on TITV. This past Friday night at Coleman Coliseum, Alabama posted its highest score since 2017, 197.725 to beat LSU, who scored an outstanding score as well, 197.325. Alabama's 5-1 now on the season with 2 meets left before the SEC championships. Luisa Blanco had herself a night. She won the all-around 39.825, the 3rd highest all-around score in program history. This next meet will be Friday night in Fayetteville against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Welcome back into TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Time to go to the phone lines at 205-348-9882. And our good pal Rick from over in Bluff Park leads us off tonight. Hey, Rick.
Hey, fellas. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
Appreciate you taking my call. Jordan Bruner, I'd like to know a little bit about him. I know he's been out a month, 5 weeks or something with an injury. Where's he from? How tall is he? Stuff like that. And we talked about every other group on the football team this year. Let's talk about the specialists this evening, the punter, kicker, long snapper, and maybe even the gunners, too, if you have time. Thanks, fellas. Appreciate you taking my call.
On Jordan Bruner, he's from Columbia, South Carolina. He transferred here from Yale, and he's a graduate transfer. And he's about 6'9", 6'10", and quite frankly, I think most of us were caught off guard when he played Saturday against Vanderbilt. You know, he'd been out for several weeks since the first Kentucky game, and we knew he was going to come back at some point, but there was no inkling that he would come back and not only play but start on Saturday on Senior Day. Really good player, can shoot the 3. Gives Alabama some height inside, some rebounding, good passer as well, Rod. So it's good to get him back. As far as the specialist on the football team, I'll let you handle that.
Well, I think there's a lot to be determined, obviously, when you're talking about gunners. You know, obviously you want guys with speed. And remember, Devontae Smith did that last year. You know, again, I think Alabama has plenty of high-quality athletes that they can utilize out there as the gunners. Now, as far as the place kicker goes, we know about Will Reichard. He was perfect last season, Rick, so it doesn't get a lot better than that. And, you know, as far as the punter goes, Charlie Scott last year, we'll see what happens. You have a lot of walk-ons, guys that are competing, guys that have been around. And even Will Reichard was a very, very talented punter as well. I'm not sure they'll give him the opportunity to do both. And we'll see what happens with Thomas Fletcher gone now as long snapper. You know, Gary, who steps into that role again. I think a lot of things are going to start to kind of crystallize a little bit in that regard in spring, but then as you move forward also into August camp.
All right, let's take an email before we have to hit this break. Should Nate Oats be Coach of the Year from Bradley and Tuscaloosa? I certainly think that he should be the SEC Coach of the Year. And some other coaches have done fine jobs, including the guy at Arkansas who Alabama's going to play tomorrow night. But I definitely think he'll be the SEC Coach of the Year. And yes, Rodney, I think he is in contention for National Coach of the Year, depending on how Alabama closes out this season.
I think anytime what Tim Brando says, you know, an Alabama coach should probably be the Coach of the Year. It gives you a pretty good idea that what kind of job Nate Oats has done. And I agree with you, Gary, certainly in the SEC. And it's difficult to say that he won't be one of those top guys in terms of nationally becoming the Coach of the Year.
All right, coming up, a former Alabama long snapper, speaking of specialists, is going to get a chance to show his stuff to the NFL. And more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number right there, 205-348-9882. We'll be right back from Tuscaloosa. Now, the NFL Combine is not going to be held in its traditional form this year due to the COVID pandemic, but it will be held at Pro Days, and Thomas Fletcher, Alabama's long snapper, is going to be a part of it. He is probably the top long snapper in this draft class, competed at the Senior Bowl, and hopes to join Carson Tinker of the New York Giants. And also, who's the snapper with the Chargers that was here a few years ago, Rodney?
Yeah, the kid from the West Coast that came out here,
You know
Nick Mazza.
Yeah, Cole Mazza.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're both in the NFL. All right, let's get to the phone line real quick and talk with Reg over in Beeham. Go ahead, Reg.
Hey, I'm glad you guys are talking some about the softball team. We don't get any information in the paper here in Birmingham about it. Can you tell me about the pitching staff? What's their top 3 pitchers, and you think they'll be on television in it this year?
Yeah, they're going to be on television a number of times, Reg. Their pitching staff's as deep as there is in the country. To say the top 3, I'd rather Murph answer that, but it's probably Montana Fouts, Lexi Kilfoyle, and Sarah Cornell. But they've got others. Rodney, as you know, this is a deep pitching staff, 5 or 6 pitchers deep. But those 3 right there are all, could be number ones at a lot of schools. So deep pitching staff. Reg, they are going to be on television. So Alabama softball, one of the top programs in the country, no doubt about that. All right, thanks for the phone calls and the emails. We'll be back with more TITV right after this.